Interesting that you've gone for such a dark bottle for your Pinot Grigio, because majority of Pinot Grigios are sold in lighter, whiter, clearer glass bottles to try and sell because of the colour of Pinot Grigio. You've gone for a dark bottle. Is there any particular reason for that?
Yeah, with the darker bottle, the aim was to give something more evocative of a Burgundy. That's really where, with the Pinot Noir and Pinot Grigio and the Blanc de Blanc, it was very much going more along that style.
Okay.
So premiumization a little bit, and to differentiate from our other range, or entry-level range, which is in a clear glass.
Okay.
So it's,
Oh, I see.
to give it something different. Although you'll see with
Are we
the...
cheersing again?
Yes.
Cheers.
I know, cheers.
Chin chin, everybody.
Chin chin.
Cheers. Cheers.
That is lovely.
But you see, this is precisely the situation where even
That's nice.
those of us who drink wine would not want to drink wine because we still have work to do later. But equally, we don't want to have a soft drink with loads of sugar. So again, goes back to what we were saying, that there's definitely a space for no and low to answer the needs of consumers, not just those that are not drinking alcohol at all, but actually those who actually love wine and need a suitable alternative when they don't want to drink alcohol.
Abstaining through, maybe you drove somewhere. I drove here today. I'm going to be driving back later. If this was not alcohol free, that wouldn't be an option. It saves me a bit of money on the train. Sorry for people that had to deal with the train this morning. But also, you know, if you really enjoyed wine and then you become pregnant, you're going to have to find an alternative. It's nice to have that on the menu, but again, I feel like I made the point before, so I know we're filming now and we haven't made that point yet, but it is that kind of point where it shouldn't just be abstination, because that's almost being apologetic. And we need to have a wine where we feel celebratory about it. You know, we should be saying this is an alcohol-free wine. It's not this is a great wine, but it's got no alcohol. That B word is mentioned quite a lot when it comes to non-alcoholic and low alcoholic wines.
I think let's start at the beginning then, because we're talking about alcohol-free drinks with a focus on alcohol-free wine, and it's one of the most contentious, complicated areas in alcohol-free space. It's one of the least understood. So I'm going to start with Dan, if I can, because in simple terms, what is alcohol-free wine and why are you making it?
So for us, we want to make an alcohol-free wine, one, because we always have for a very long time, but also we want people to have choice. That is a big part of our mission, is every glass, every occasion. There is an occasion where alcohol-free wine can be the answer. We are always passionate that what we produce with Eisberg is always an alcohol-free wine. And by that, I mean it was a wine with alcohol, and then we've de-alcoholized. So we don't want to start with grapes and then work backwards. We want something to give authenticity. And that is a big part of what we want, is we want people to have that same experience. It will never be identical to a wine with alcohol, but that's fine for us. It's about giving occasion and a moment and a glass of wine that people can feel included and enjoyed.
You say it's never going to be identical to, I guess we use the word, what do we say, for traditional, conventional
wine with alcohol.
Wine with alcohol. There's a lot of, again, we'll come on to language again, because it is such a big topic, but in it, it's not to just go around in the circle, but does it matter for consumers that it's never going to be the same as full-strength alcohol wine? Or is that a goal we should be striving for? Should we be trying to make it taste exactly the same as wine with alcohol?
No, I think that's one of the key focuses of education, is making sure that people's expectations are adjusted to the process. So this is a wine. Yes, exactly. It's a product that was at some point a wine with alcohol, and it was de-alcoholized. There are changes in aromatic components, in structure, that are inevitable. So no, it's never going to be the same. So I think that's, again, one of the key points when educating, when communicating with people, is that, no, we're not trying to emulate Burgundy. No, we're talking about a different product.
Yeah. Carl, I'm hearing lots of...
I've got some thoughts.
Absolutely. And also, guys, feel free to jump in if you have something to add. You know, it's an open forum.
Bear with me on this one. I think this is a room full of people, right, that are knowledgeable about the product, about the space. I think sometimes there's a risk that we can pick up on a bias that the product is not good, and we can also come from that perspective. So I agree it's never going to be like for like, it's never going to taste the same, but I've had some incredible alcohol-free wines, and the fact that there's no alcohol in there is kind of irrespective. I don't drink because I chose not to drink because it was a problem for me. But most people that are interested in those products, that are buying those products from the shelves, that want to see them on restaurant menus, are not like me. Most people are people that are choosing to have a night off, that maybe are alternating between alcohol and alcohol-free. So I think we can say, it's never going to be the same. But I also don't know if that perspective is helpful for consumers, because actually there are some brilliant products out there, and I'm sat drinking this thinking, that's delicious. So I think we have got a role to play in the expectation that we set as well.
The industry perspective, I think, is interesting in terms of the wine development itself. And I'd love to take a moment just to sort of explore where we started with alcohol-free wine and where we are now, and perhaps where it could be going. And in that, we can look at, what people are looking for from it. But in terms of what we have now on the table with these types of wines and where they started, you mentioned earlier on, Jason, that you had been looking at low and no wines maybe 5-6 years ago in your
so
studies.
My diploma studies, they chucked out for the wine business part. They were like, where's this low and no go, discuss. And
so what were you tasting back then, and how does it compare to what we're tasting now?
I had to taste, it will have been in the hundreds of different low and no alcohol wines. I was spending a lot of money as well on them, because we'll get on to price, I'm assuming later on as well when we come on to this.
Definitely.
Because that is a big barrier.
It is.
And I mean, I forced anyone that would sample them with me to sample them as well. Some of them enjoyed it a lot more than others. My friend Chris is quite a wine snob. He did not enjoy it. A lot of it, in all honesty, was atrocious.
Okay.
There was just far too much that was overly sweet, unbalanced. And when it comes to wine, the thing that matters most with wine is balance, making sure that your acidity levels perfectly match your sugar residual sugar, making sure that the flavors work with the amount of acidity that you've got. And a lot of the wines back then did not have that balance. There was too many that had too much sugar, but not enough ripe fruit to go with the sugar. So you were tasting wines that were slightly vegetal at times that had sugar to them, and it was off-putting and it was not very nice. So yeah, the to answer the question, tasted a lot. Not much of it was great. There were some shining examples in there as well. South Africa were doing very well. I think they've invested a lot of money into that, mainly because of issues that South Africa has had with alcohol, which has been quite heavily documented. So they were really pushing that little bit of innovation. So I think they were ahead of the trend at the time. Nowadays, with the lovely German geeks that you have, I think that they're catching up quite quickly, and the innovation seems to be now being led in your cooler climate regions. So it's definitely getting better. It's still not all perfect though.
I've heard people use terminology around the drinks industry in general, talking about the first generation of alcohol-free drinks, and saying that now we're moving through the second generation to the third, in terms of how they developed. You tasted hundreds back then, and they were mostly unenjoyable.
Yes, I'm trying to word this in a way where I'm not throwing any harsh words out there. But I mean, atrocious was harsh enough, but there are definitely some expletives that could have left my mouth on a couple of them.
So in terms terms of what we're moving into now, in terms of the quality that's available with the innovation that creates it, are we moving into a space in as where we are creating the type of quality wine that's going to see us through to the next generation of creating these alcohol-free beverages, or is there still loads to do? Where are we?
There is still a lot to do, especially when it comes to wine and that subcategory of alcohol-free wine. However, of course, there is that, at least now that there's awareness and there's a lot of investment going into it.
Okay.
Which is a very different place from, like, say, 5 years ago, where everyone thought about it as sort of like a second thought, right? It was not a strategic priority for any company, and now we're seeing leading companies, even in traditional wine producing countries like Spain, Portugal, Italy, really looking at it as a serious category within their portfolios, and a category in which they have to invest with dedicated facilities, with R&D, with dedicated teams. I mean, we would not be saying this, I mean, not even 3 years ago.
Yeah. I'm interested to hear more about sort of internationally how that's been going, but just briefly, in terms of a consumer perspective. So you're quite new to this way of drinking,
I am.
relatively speaking. Honest question, do you like alcohol-free wines?
Now I do.
Okay.
I have tried and tested. I've had to try hundreds. Not quite in the hundreds.
It was painful.
For me, red wine. It was red wine or rosé, and obviously very different time of year. Rosé for me was a summer drink. Red wine in the winter. I decided to quit in the height of the summer, so I was like, right, well, I need a rosé, and I couldn't find anything. So I ended up then going for non-alcoholic beers. I don't drink beer anyway, even when I was drinking. But for me, it was like the Euros were on. I wanted to feel like part of the crowd. It was really hard as someone who's just quit drinking to go and throw themselves into the fire of people being around it. You want something in your hand so that people aren't going, because to be honest, like a lot of them, if I had a glass of wine like this now, people don't know there's no alcohol in it. Yeah. And sometimes with the beer, I know there's got like the blue thing around it so people can tell, but for the most part, people aren't looking. But if you've just got like a glass of water, people are like, why aren't you drinking? So from a consumer perspective, it was like, I wanted the taste, but I also wanted to feel like part of the crowd. And I feel like even working with clients, that's exactly what they want. And that's what people struggle with. Because if you do have a non-alcoholic wine and it doesn't taste nice, like you said, Cole, first impression, if they don't like it, why are they going to go back to it? Yeah. And then you're just going to have fizzy drinks and whatever else instead. So there's lots of different ways to angle it, I think.
I like the point that you were saying that it's about blending in and not feeling, because I mean, as a male, I won't get asked that question, but if I were drinking water and I were female, that's the question that's going to be asked, and that's the question that's always going to be asked. And that's,
it is, but do you know what the thing is? It's like people will always ask you why you're not drinking, but no one asks you why you're drinking. Yeah. And it's like that's almost like a narrative that we need to spin, and we need to start asking those questions. Because I think if I would have quit 5-6 years ago, I would have found it very, very difficult. Now I know so many people. I mean, I already knew you, Carl, and knowing and watching your journey and others like it, it made me feel comfortable, and it really helped me to kind of know that I had a community.
Oh,
I had people.
stop.
No, but it's true. Like my friend Alice, she quit 5 years ago, and she said she felt alone because there was no one else around. Yeah. There was no great alternatives out there.
Yeah, I think we can definitely jump onto more of that. I think, should we take a moment to get our next wine in, because I'm very excited to see what else we get to taste.
This is really nice. What one was this?
This was delicious.
I think what's good about what we've got now, something we mentioned before, is variety, isn't it? So you've got something for different occasions.
Yes.
Because just having a wine, a red, a white, it isn't good enough anymore, is it?
No. I think a big part of what we want is choice. And so we started for most of our life at Eisberg, so going on 35 years, of just having red, white, rosé, that's your lot. Now we want to expand more and give more options. So we have an everyday easy drinking range, and we have our more premium range for wine for people that maybe want to explore a little bit more in their wine and have something even more authentic. And then we're looking at canned format, which is launching next month,
Okay.
to give, again, more choice.
Canned wines are really having their moment.
Yeah.
I've seen another new brand. I can't remember the name of them, but I saw them recently because I didn't know it was even a thing.
So it's now giving like that canned wine moment to our free drinkers as well.
And then again, you're then increasing your reach. Because people like a tinny if they get enough.
Exactly.
You can't get a glass of wine.
Yeah, exactly. We want
Miss my days of tramp titties.
Yeah. Because there's a younger generation of people who are moderating or not drinking completely, who have grown up without the wine occasion. They've not had this before, of having a bottle and a glass, and so they're less tied to that idea or less traditional in that respect. So it's about giving those different options.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And that's something I used to hear a lot with people saying, "Oh, I wouldn't buy a bottle of alcohol-free wine to take home because I'm going to open it and I'm maybe going to have a glass and then I'm not going to have any more, or I might have 2 glasses, or I'm not going to share it with my husband or my wife because actually they'll be drinking alcohol and I won't." And so sometimes the volume that we buy this product in is another barrier to entry. So I think having a can, people can buy they can buy cans and they can just have then the amount that they want.
I think that's a comment on even conventional wine as well. Yeah, because we've been in the wine industry, especially educators and journalists, been arguing quite a lot for smaller formats.
Smaller bottles,
because I mean, I am a single man, it's not a pity, don't worry. It's like a little thing. And who knows, by the time this goes out, I might not be. We don't know. But at the same time, if I want to buy a bottle of wine, that's a lot of waste, because I've got to force myself to drink that quite quickly, find a preservative method, which means that, I'm adding an argon or something to try and protect it for longer. Or if there was just a smaller format, that would be perfect.
Yeah. And transfer that as well into a hospitality setting, so move it away from the consumer. Venues are struggling because they will say things like, "Oh, well, yeah, we got an alcohol-free wine in and we'd open it and we'd sell a glass and then we wouldn't sell anymore, so that's wastage." So just commercially.
But even
a
festival, you go to a festival, you are not going to be allowed glass in the field because that is a danger, but you are allowed cans. Beer gets away with it because most beers are also put into can. This is where conventional wine as well as non-conventional alcohol-free wine needs to then come into play and go, right, here's ours, because we can't let beer win everything. we need to claim back some wine space. So I'm liking seeing these starting to be developed a little bit more.
The hospitality angle, I think, is a really big one, isn't it? It's about, people were saying that there's wines for different occasions, and you've mentioned, getting on the train or going and having your picnic, if you're taking the kids down and you just want something that you can take with you. Yeah. I like your point about the fact that quite often people are going to be drinking this and they might be the only person in their family unit or their friend group that is having an alcohol-free option or a low or light option. Yeah. And then they go into a hospitality setting, and that's where they face a real struggle, I think, more so than in your supermarkets or online. It's about how we help our hospitality teams to understand these drinks and then communicate that. So where's the missing piece going from yourselves to the venues to the consumer?
That's so true. And that's where I think kombucha is winning the race at the moment. Because now they're in festivals, they're warehouse project. I mean, you never thought I'd see the day that they would be anywhere. They're really, again, having their moment. And it's like, how amazing would it be if alcohol-free wine could be doing the same thing?
I think a lot of it comes down to it's systemic in the hospitality system, i.e., people worry about things like procurement and all of that type of thing. And so it's just easier if a hospitality chain or a venue is working with a big provider, if they've got one non-alc option, which is a beer, they'll say, "Oh, well, we sell an alcohol-free beer, so that's fine." And no, that's not actually being inclusive, that's being tokenistic.
How do you help venues understand and communicate the value opportunity of an alcohol-free wine?
I think it goes to identifying what they need it for. Like, it shouldn't be tokenistic. It shouldn't just be anything. It's like, what is going to work for them? Because if it doesn't work for them, they're not going to order it again. And if it doesn't work for the consumer, they're not going to order it again if it's an old bottle that they've got.
Yeah.
So it's making sure that it's tailored in the right way.
If we could change tactics a little bit, I'm going to put one word out there, and whoever wants to jump in on it. Costs.
Ah. Yeah.
Who's going to take it first?
I'll do the production side of it, and then we can talk more on consumers, I think.
Absolutely. Let's go for it.
So, yes, cost is an issue because you instinctively might think that it should be cheaper because there's no alcohol, therefore no duty. And duty, we know, I mean, in the alcohol space, we know duty is frustratingly high anyway. So you think, oh, no duty, therefore fantastic. It's not necessarily the case that is as clean cut and say, okay, well, we're going to pass that saving to you. I think if we look at a production point of view, if you say, well, we start with a wine with alcohol, all of that work that's been done, and then we're going to remove the alcohol. So there's all that extra work to do on top of that. So we're going further than a wine maker has to do. And you raised natural wines before. In the case of natural wines, almost you can put some grapes in a vessel and just leave it, and just like it will happen because everything naturally will go that way. So there are more steps involved, if you like, and also those steps can be quite energy intensive.
But Carl, it still doesn't have any alcohol in it. So when I'm coming into a bar, why
It should be cheaper.
Why should I pay as much for it as I do for a conventional wine?
Well, the objection actually usually is something like, I'll just buy a Coke because it's cheaper, it's half the price. And I think it's kind of missing the point. Like, to your point earlier, lots of people want a drink that comes in a nice glass and it feels like a grown-up drink, right? And you don't feel like you stand out amongst your peers, and it's more than a product. It's experiential. It's a moment. People could say, oh, that's just a bit cheesy, or I don't care, I just want a drink. And if you're in that camp, fine, no judgment, like get yourself a soft drink. I totally understand. But actually lots of people who are choosing to buy an alcohol-free product do want to feel like they're part of the group that they're in, and do want to feel like they can still have that ritual where maybe I've had a really busy week and I just want to pour a glass of wine. And
something nice.
Yeah, it's a treat. The reason why people do that sort of thing and why it's so romanticized in film and television is because it is a treat to people. So it's a big barrier. The cost thing is a massive barrier. I would always explain the production process, and it was really hard in the bar because sometimes if you're at a busy bar, you can't necessarily have that conversation with every person, right? But, I would typically say, look, there's a lot of misconceptions out there. Making an alcohol-free wine, making an alcohol-free product, typically it costs more because you start with the product with alcohol in, and then there's a really expensive process to remove the alcohol. So it's going to cost you more money. But actually, if you look at the economics of your night out, not to get too geeky, you're going to have 3 drinks instead of 10 drinks. So actually, you're still going to save. You're not going to spend as much money. So there's just it's those like gentle conversations. And equally, there are a lot of people that are doing this because they're buying products like this because they're more health conscious, and they don't really mind. It doesn't come up for them. It's through choice, and they're happy to pay. I think it's more, for want of a better description, like the masses. And sometimes I feel like it's a bit of people want to have that debate about it.
They're sometimes looking for barriers as well. They're looking for excuses.
Just don't understand it. There's no alcohol in it, so why is it warm?
So were you surprised when you came into this space about the fact that alcohol-free drinks would cost the same or sometimes more?
Yeah. So when I was still drinking, I was trying to reduce my drinking. I went into Sainsbury's and I went to get a bottle of gin, and it was the Gordons, the alcohol-free, and you had the normal, and they were the same price. And I was like, well, obviously I'm just going to buy the normal bottle of gin. So I did. Because in my head I was like, why am I going to buy a bottle of alcohol-free gin? Because the process didn't even come into my mind.
No, why
it was just like, but that makes no sense because I'm getting nothing out of it. Now, obviously, I see it from a completely different angle, but I know that I am not the only person that thinks like that. And it's things that come up, questions from friends. And sometimes I go to the bar and I find it really funny. And it's like, veering slightly away from just wine on like the gin side of things, that would be my drink. So it would have been like a G&T, and then it still makes me laugh. And they go, "Do you want a single or a double?" There's no alcohol in it. Whereas now I've got used to the fact that I'm still probably going to pay the same. But as you said, I'm not going to be buying as many drinks.
Yeah.
So I'm still going to be saving a ton of money at the end of it and not feeling rough the next day. So.
And that language you just used of, I'm not getting anything out of it, that is such common language. And what that actually means is, the translation of that is, it's not getting me drunk.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like, people drink because they want to get drunk. They don't do it because they want to enjoy it with a meal or something like that, you know?
And that's the whole, at the core of what we were talking earlier about wine moderation and pleasure. Because actually, if that's the end game, then actually don't drink wine at all. You know, because you're wasting your money, because you're not actually enjoying the expensive wine you bought.
It's the value, isn't it, that we place on the alcohol that's in traditional wine that is missing from full strength wine, that people, because we still put a lot of value on the alcohol itself, that, like you said, you know, should I get the 0% of the full strength at the same price? Well, I'm getting more if I get that. But I think we need to look at how we can use platforms like yours, magazines and communications and social media to educate the masses in terms of knowing that, is alcohol actually the most valuable thing in your glass?
And to be pedantic and petty about it.
Please.
There are plenty of wines with alcohol where the alcohol is out of balance, where it's too high, it's too low. It's not about how strong is it. It's about how well is it made and how well is it integrated. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, which goes back to actually the communication starts even with conventional wine, is that alcohol, even when it's there, it needs to be part of a very complex equation of balance. And arguably the same could be said about a wine that's been dealcoholized, if that the balance, and I think that's what companies like Eisberg are trying to achieve, is again replicating that perfect balance without alcohol, which is extremely tricky. But yes, so it's not it's not a fact that if you have the alcohol there, it's going to be a good product.
Yeah.
What do you want in terms of good quality from a wine? Because, you know, you've got a unique perspective from what you do and the people that are coming to you for guidance. What do brands like Eisberg, magazines that help to people to find these things, what do they need to be sharing about these wines for their people to think, this is a good value drink that I'm having?
I think first and foremost it's flavour. Going back to when I first started and when my friends, you know, now enjoy it with me, is if I had tried an alcohol-free wine and I didn't like the taste of it, I would not pick it up again, and that would be the be-all and end-all. I didn't really go looking online for reviews or anything like that. It was very much, I'm going to go into Tesco, I'm going to go into, you know, the different places and see what I can source, and then found out about different brands probably through LinkedIn, actually, because things would just put up on my feed and I'd see things like that. But now it's not just about flavour. It's the same for me and my clients, where people are looking at what are the ingredients in it, because sugar hangovers are a thing. And actually there's been times where I've had a few glasses of wine. You know, me and my friend came up for the weekend. We had shared a bottle of, I don't know, like Nosako or something like that. Next morning I woke up and I was like, I feel hungover. You know, because you're having the sugar in the evening and then it's disrupting your sleep. You're then waking up the next day and you feel groggy. Then you want to eat sugary, fatty, carby kind of food. You don't want to move your body. So you're still getting the after effects of that thing without the alcohol there. So yeah, sugar, ingredients in general, and flavour, I think, are the three things that people look for.
I think we can definitely talk a bit more about that side of things and the health perspective. Should we get some more wine going?
Absolutely.
So red wines are almost the holy grail of alcohol-free wines.
Yeah.
They are the one area that people ask the most about, I think, across the board. What's the secret to making and producing and helping people find amazing alcohol-free red wine?
I think there's one thing that I'm particularly proud of with the Pinot Noir is we spent a long time working with varieties like Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, We still have those in the ranges, but they are a challenge because you are removing body, you are removing things that maybe help balance and help bolster flavour. Pinot Noir is a lighter variety in general. It's not as heavy, it's a little bit lighter coloured, and with the alkalization, it's working with you a little bit more. So it's not you're not fighting against keeping tannin, keeping power, keeping body. It is a little bit more working with it. And I think that's the key. It's understanding what is the alkalization doing for the wine, what is the result you're going to get, and not just, like we talked about before, giving a red, white, rosé, whatever will do, residual sugar, doesn't matter, chuck it in. It's thinking a little bit more about it, about who is going to enjoy it, when are they going to enjoy it. We want this Pinot Noir to be like food friendly. We want it on a dinner table. We want people to enjoy it alongside food and on its own. And I think that's really what we go for, is thinking a little bit more about what the result is going to be before we do it.
Ines, what do you want to see from alcohol-free red wine?
Well, ideally, texture, along with flavor, and I think that's one of the biggest difficulties, isn't it? Preserving that texture, and also something we were talking about earlier about the balance. There's something. I mean, we have to acknowledge that part of what alcohol brings to a wine is this balance, and it sort of holds things together in a particular way, and also carries the flavors in a particular way. So, an alcohol-free wine, ideally, we would see a similar kind of balance that allows you to have the same or a comparable textural experience. And I think that's also the biggest challenge when you try, for example, food pairings with alcohol-free wines, is that so much about it's about texture. So yeah, I think that's.
And one of the we recognise that too, and one of the things we do in our research is working a little bit more with Arabic gum to give body and texture without giving sweetness that is not going to bring the sugar. So there are those things that we'll work on. We recognise everything you say. I completely agree with you, and we are working behind the scenes on different ways that we can get that texture, because that would be it. If we can get that, everyone's in trouble.
I'm of the opinion whoever truly nails alcohol-free red wine, they're going to be really rich, because it is the question I get asked the most. I post a lot about alcohol-free drinks online, and I usually ask people, what are you drinking at the moment, or have you got any questions? And the most common question, hands down, is there a good red wine out there?
I think Gemma would be interested where, when you are talking food nutrition, does drink come into it, whether it's alcohol or no alcohol?
Yeah, all the time, and I think it depends on the context. Alcohol does come up for various reasons, whether that's someone that's struggling with the hangovers, the other side of it is people wanting to lose weight, people wanting to, cut the calories and all of this. And I think one of the things, especially with red wine, is you've got polyphenols. So, research has shown now that even with alcohol-free wine, you still get that benefit. But in the same way that I would recommend to anyone else, you lose that benefit once you've had more than one glass. So you're looking at it from a health perspective, but then from a nutrition perspective overall, it's finding that balance. I was saying earlier, it's the key word, isn't it? What is balance? Because balance looks different for everyone. And what could be 1 or 2 drinks for one person could be great, 3 or 4 for someone else. So I think, I'd love to continue to see this growing and the variety of drinks in this field growing, because even in the last 2 or 3 years, now that these conversations are being had, it's clearly growing tenfold,
And it's moved on a hell of a way. The alcohol-free wines, be they red or other, compared to a few years ago, I mean, we're leaps and bounds ahead, but it is a case of we need to encourage people to, and I think you made a really good point, yes, we can talk about education, but ultimately encourage people to buy things, to try things, and to feed back, and to call you up and say, right, Dan, I love this bit, I didn't like that bit, and can you give me some more of that? Can you change that? Because we can act on that.
I think as well, you need it to be a little bit more in the limelight. More restaurants, bigger restaurant chains. If you're a big brand restaurant, if you're Wetherspoons, if you're, Miller and Carter's of the world, where is your non-alcoholic wines in your, and pushing it for food? I think that if we start seeing it there, then we'll start seeing it in the pubs of Yorkshire and the pubs of North Wales, because it needs to be led by the brands that can take that little bit of a risk.
That leads me perfectly on then to start looking at where we see this category going, or rather what we want to see from it going forward and into the future. We've talked about where it started, where it's at now, but what is coming next for alcohol-free, or what do we want to be coming next from alcohol-free? You can keep going.
Okay. I want us to be able to have wines that we celebrate rather than apologise for. So instead of having a wine that we say, hey, it's great, but it is alcohol free, we should get rid of the buts in the world. We should. That's a very weird sentence. We shouldn't get rid of all buts in the world. But we should try to remove that kind of thinking about the fact that we're always making up for not having the alcohol in the wine. That's something that we need to step away from. And we need to maybe have these wines being in more celebratory aspects. If you're getting married, think about non-alcoholic wines for those people that don't drink alcohol.
Yeah, it's not an apology drink. It is a fantastic,
celebrate, don't
useful.
apologise.
Yeah, absolutely. What about yourself, Jem? The future of alcohol-free drinks.
Oh, I just love to see it in more places. I'd love to be able to go out as a consumer, as a friend, to be able to go out with my mates and know that I can walk in somewhere and I can open the menu and there will be alcohol-free wine on there that I will want to buy, because at the moment they're just not everywhere and it's really hard. It's fine if I want to drink them at home, if I want to go do a picnic, things like that, but actually overall in bars, restaurants, etc., it's kind of non-existent at the moment, so it would be nice to see that.
And over to you, Carl, that in terms of looking towards where alcohol-free is going, is it a case of you get one choice and then it's water?
I love water.
I love water.
A bad rep
there actually is. I love water. Nothing wrong with it. Very good. Hydrate yourself.
I think it's such an exciting time. I think I know that's like a really generic statement, but alcohol-free drinks, if you think what was available a couple of years ago versus today, it's wildly different. If you look at the data, so the largest consumers of alcohol-free products in the UK is 18 to 24-year-olds, and I think actually that's where it's going to be very interesting, because the culture with 18 to 24-year-olds and the type of drinks that they have and the occasions that they use those products is quite different to this sort of setting. So what does that actually mean for alcohol-free wine? How do you access those people and bring them in so that actually, they can taste and experience and try a product that actually they might want to drink but wouldn't typically? So I think it's really exciting, and I think there's, out of all of the, if you think drinks categories are quite siloed really, but it feels like this is a space where there's a lot of room for experimentation, for creativity. There's traditional alcohol-free alternative style drinks, but then you've got functional drinks and all sorts of things are cool things are coming out. So yeah, I think I'm wildly optimistic. I think I've got quite a strong opinion that I think the way that alcohol is consumed in society today will be very different in a few decades' time. I think it will look very different, and I think we will look on it in a similar way to smoking, and it will just be, I think the culture around it will be that alcohol is used, it will flip, and the narrative won't be, or you don't drink, or you're having an alcohol-free drink. I think it'll be the other way around.
Why are you having a drink?
Yeah, and it'll be like, binge drinking or heavy drinking. I think that will be really frowned upon.
And Ines, from your perspective, in terms of the what you're seeing with alcohol-free wine and drinks in general, but obviously specifically wine, what do you see, or what do you want to see from the future of this category?
Well, definitely more diversity, but also more availability. And especially also on the on-trade. It used to be that if you could either order the wine flight or you have a little asterisk, like ask about alternatives. Yeah. And I think increasingly we're seeing a real pairing offering, that it's actually curated as well as the wine offering. And I think that's really important. And going back to the beginning of our conversation, that this is very important, not just for the no and low categories, but for the wine category in itself. We want to make sure that people can sustain wine consumption. Well, at least I want to, speaking from a point of view of someone that loves wine, and that people are able to sustain a healthy, moderate consumption. And, in order for that to happen, they need to have good alternatives.
Absolutely. And the moderation angle is huge. It's a huge part of this industry for any part of it, any aspect of it, because as we've all touched on, the people who are drinking these drinks are not all only drinking alcohol-free drinks. They're sometimes drinking alcohol, sometimes have things that they want to do, sometimes just want a little bit of a break. So to be able to bridge that moderation gap for everyone is huge. So it makes sense on that note then, Dan, for you to tell us what the future of alcohol-free wine looks like for you.
Well, I would say quality will continue, research will continue. I can tell you we are not producing the best we can yet.
Okay.
We have definitely ways we can improve, and we continue to do that, and the industry and consumers will come along that journey with us. And I'd also echo your point, is to look at it from a wine industry whole and not just alcohol-free wine being on the fringes. If we look at younger generations and how they're drinking and what they're drinking, at the moment alcohol-free wine tends to get the reaction of what's the point a lot of the time, and there may become a point in 10 years where it is us really helping wine as much as they're helping us. So I think there is a future where alcohol-free wine is going to be more integrated in wine as a whole.
Yeah.
And we'll lose that kind of that stigmatization. So very
exciting time.
Very exciting.
Eisberg to lead the way.
Absolutely. Cheers, everyone.